Ahoj všichni, vítejte na mém kanálu Richard mluví česky. Jsem Angličan, který se snaží naučit plynně česky, podle rád odborníků na učení jazyků a zároveň dokumentuje svou cestu. Pokud chcete sledovat můj pokrok a zjistit, pokud chcete sledovat můj pokrok a zjistit, jestli tyto metody opravdu fungují, přihlaste se prosím k odběru. Budu moc rád, když mi do komentáře napíšete své tipy, rady nebo opravy. Okay, got there in the end. Okay, guys. So in this video, I'm going to attempt to explain the method that I'm following on this journey, and we'll see how it goes. So let's get straight into it. Okay, guys. So there's any amount of YouTube language learning experts out there with this system and that system. So I've kind of gone with one that I seem to kind of resonate with, I guess. And that's this guy. So Mikel Hyperpolyglot. I can barely say that. Hyperpolyglot. Mikel Hyperpolyglot. At the top of his page, it does say learn any language in 3 months. That's quite a big claim. So we'll see. I do have a little bit of skepticism about some things, which I'll get into later. This guy, yeah, so he kind of explains things quite well. Let's go to some of his videos there. This video, Steal My System, How I Learned to Speak Fluently in 30 Days, so you can steal my system. We'll have a little look at this video in a minute, but he explains it quite well. The system in this video, and this is the system that I'm following. You do have to go through quite a few of his videos to get the gist of the system. How you implement the system might depend on your level of the language that you're trying to learn. But I'll explain exactly where I'm starting from when we have a little look at this video next. Let's take a look at what he's saying in this video. I think with this video, he's about to describe this 3-step system that I'm going to be following. I think the way he explains this system kind of presumes that you have some knowledge of the language, maybe a little bit of knowledge. I think if you were starting from absolute zero, you first of all need to know how the alphabet sounds, know how the sounds that each letter makes, so you're able to pronounce words. You would then, as he describes in another video, is learn the 1,000 most frequently used words in that language. Learn those and then put them into example sentences, or 1,000 example sentences, so you can see those words in use. I'm not really starting from absolute zero, so I do have some knowledge. Like we explained before, I've been doing things like Duolingo, and also been around native speakers, and I've picked up little bits here and there, and I do know a lot of words and I know how to pronounce things. So I'm starting kind of from this step that he's about to explain here. So let's see what he says.
It works. 3 things, done correctly, in the right order. And this is the exact same process every single time, no matter which language. Step 1, build your foundation. Learn the highest frequency, most useful sentences. Not random vocabulary from some app or random word lists. The sentences that actually get used constantly in real conversation. I use my own app for this, Hyperlingua. Links in the description, by the way. And the process is always the same. Just 3 things. Lots of repetition, audio, shadowing, and active recall. You listen to a sentence on repeat until you know exactly what it sounds like, and then you shadow it. You repeat it out loud at the same time over and over again. So you're training your mouth, not just your ears. And then, most importantly, active recall. You try to produce the sentence from memory, out loud, and then you check the answer. And that struggle, getting it wrong and then seeing the right answer, that's when the memory actually sticks. Getting it right without effort means that you already knew it. You need friction. And then step 2. Once the foundation is there, you build your own sentences, your language islands. Full sentences you'll actually...
So, this is the first step that I'm in at the moment. So I'm going to be doing this for like the next month or so. So what I'm doing at the moment is I'm building lots of example sentences, lots of kind of useful everyday sentences, the kind of sentences that pop up in everyday conversation, and I write them down. I put them into a document so they can copy and paste it into an AI text-to-speech app, and then create an audio file, download that, and then listen to it over and over again. Listen to it, repeat it, shadow it, and then try to recall it from memory. His app, the Hyperpolyglot app, I did check that out, but it doesn't support Czech at the moment, so that would be a little bit more useful. So I'm kind of doing things the hard way.
Say about your own life. What you talk about at work. What would you say to friends? Talking about your hobbies, your opinions, telling stories. You basically narrate your own life, you translate it into the target language, and with that you've got a few thousand sentences that are completely personal to you, not generic textbook phrases. And you learn them exactly the same way. Lots of repetition, shadowing, and active recall. Same method, just personalized. And I often get asked which islands you should build first and in which order. And it's very simple. First, you need to learn to talk about yourself. Your name, where you're from, what you do. This comes up literally in every single conversation. Every single conversation you'll ever have with strangers. So it has to be automatic. Zero hesitation. Then you learn to talk about your work, because this is a topic that comes up all the time as well, with almost everyone you meet. Also really important, learn to speak about the language itself. Why you're learning it, how long you've been learning it, how you're learning it, because native speakers will constantly ask you about this. You should also prepare a few language islands about places you've traveled to, countries connected to the language you're learning. Small talk about places is some of the most common conversation that happens, so be prepared for it. The next part is also really useful. When you meet native speakers in real life, showing interest in the language, their country, their culture, this will make most people instantly like you. So learn those islands. And I recommend 2 types of islands for these scenarios. Meeting native speakers in your hometown and meeting native speakers when you're traveling yourself abroad. The things you will say are different in each case, so prepare for both. And of course, you also need language islands about your main hobbies and your interests. Whatever you're into, you want to be able to talk about it fluently, because this will actually make conversations fun and interesting.
One thing that I would add to this, or one thing that makes me question the method a little bit, is that if you're only learning to talk about yourself, you're not really learning how to learn about other people, extract information from other people. So the first language island that I'll create when I get to that point is obviously I'll be able to talk about myself, and then I want to try to learn how to ask other people questions about their lives. Otherwise it's just a one-sided conversation. I think you need to know also how to recognize these questions when someone asks you these things. So I'm going to try and add that to these language islands when I get around to creating them.
Instead of just functional. And also learn to tell some stories. If you can't tell stories in the language, this does more for your confidence than hundreds of random vocab words or having whatever level on paper. Basically, the more stories you can tell in the language, the better. You can prepare lots of these islands pretty fast if you do it right. Once you've learned enough basic sentences, you can start doing speaking practice using AI. You just grab your phone and you go for a walk and you just speak. And you can turn the transcripts of your speaking practice into more language islands. And every single time that you try to say something and you get corrected, You take that corrected sentence and you turn it into a brand new island. The feedback you get from your mistakes becomes your next study material. So the system feeds itself. It never stops growing. And that's the whole thing. Just 3 steps. Nothing fancy.
So he talks about using AI there for speaking practice. I think that kind of assumes that you don't have a native speaker. You don't have access to a native speaker. I do have access to a native speaker, so I intend to try and use Yana for as many conversations as possible, which I already do sometimes as well. But I might try and use AI as well. I did try to use ChatGPT for this, but it didn't seem to work very well. It was really difficult to use. But maybe there's better ones out there as well. I could just need to put a bit of a research into that. But you could. I'm also going to look for online tutors as well, like on italki. I'm going to see if I can do a conversation there as well, and see how I get on with that.
Just done correctly and done consistently. It's the exact system whether you're 6 weeks into the language or 6 months in. And how do you put all of it together in real conversation? Well, very simple. After doing a massive amount of reps with the basic sentences, you know all the high-frequency sentences that you need. You'll be able to use them automatically. Then you learn your language islands, entire paragraphs. And this will allow you to speak fluently the moment these topics come up, if you prioritize the ones that you actually use most of the time. So short automatic sentences first to get the conversation started, and then you take the conversation wherever you want, or change topics fast if it's getting hard, and use your language islands to have deeper conversations. Once you get into the topics you actually care about, the things you want to talk about. So high frequency sentences first as the foundation, and then your own language islands for real conversation, completed with AI speaking practice. That's the entire system. If you want to take language learning seriously and get results, the links are in the description.
So I'll put a link to this guy's channel. If you want to check it out, I'll also link this particular video as well. So that's the 3-step system that I'm going to follow. So the first step is create these useful everyday kind of sentences that pop up in everyday conversations, practice those. I'm going to do that for the first month. Month 2, I'll be building my language islands. Like I said, I'll first learn to talk about myself, and then want to be able to ask other people about themselves, and so on, learn to talk about hobbies, work, etc. And so the 3rd month will be mainly speaking practice, speaking to someone, a native speaker, using AI for speaking practice, or an italki tutor for AI practice. I do have some questions about the system. The first kind of question is, he doesn't really, he just kind of recommends learning to talk about yourself, which makes me think that you'll only really be able to have a one-sided conversation. You'll only be able to talk about yourself. If a topic comes up, you might be able to talk about it fluently because you've rehearsed these lines. But can you find out information about someone else? Which is why I want to create a language island about trying to find out information about other people. All that general stuff that you want to find out about people if you meet them. The second thing is that if you're just repeating lines over and over again and practicing them like an actor would learn the lines, do you really understand what you're saying, or are you just rehearsing something and repeating it from memory? I do think that has been, like when I've been practicing my intros and outros and things, I do understand the meaning of the words because I wrote it and I looked up the words, and well, ChatGPT helps me translate a passage into Czech. Anything that I don't understand there, I look up. So when I do repeat it, I do know what it's saying. But how much do you really understand it? You know, is the understanding really there in your mind, or are you just waiting for the opportunity to repeat a line from memory as soon as the opportunity comes up? but that's what we're here for, really, to try and find that out and see how I get along with that and see if I can improve at the end of this 3-month experiment. So what I want to do is try and find an italki teacher. I want to have a conversation and just to establish a baseline and see where I am at the moment. And then at the end of this 3-month experiment, we'll do another test and see how I get along there. And I might try and see if I can use Yana along the way as well for some conversations. The reality of it be, when it comes to talking, the actual talking part of it, that I might end up doing a head-in and she might not want to talk to me as much as what I would like to. But we'll see. Okay. So, Děkuji za sledování. Uvidíme se příště. Ahoj.